I'm a tad bit tardy to this party. I'm showing up fashionably late to talk about this Ashton Kutcher Mila Kunis drama. I'm sure you've heard the whole shebang, the whole rundown, but just in case you haven't, I'll give you a quick lore summary so we can talk about their horrific apology video. Basically what happened is that there's this TV show called That 70s Show, and on that show there were three actors, Ashton Kutcher, Mila Kunis, and Danny Masterson, which are all involved in this story. Danny Masterson, however, is by far the worst among these three because last Thursday he got sentenced to 30 years to life in prison for raping two women back in 2003. And now where Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis come into this drama is before his sentencing, before he got slapped with that big ol' 30 to life, they wrote character letters to the judge basically trying to say, hey, this rapist isn't actually a bad guy. The person we know is a good guy. So if you would take that into consideration and maybe give him less of a sentence, that'd be pretty sweet. Because we support a rapist. And I wanted to point out one part of the cover letter real quick from Ashton Kutcher's letter. At the end of it, he wrote, "While I'm aware that the judgment has been cast as guilty on 2 counts of rape by force and the victims have a great desire for justice, I hope that my testament to his character is taken into consideration in sentencing. I do not believe he is an ongoing harm to society, and having his daughter raised without a present father would be a... What is that word? That's not an English word. I'm going to say a terrible injustice. What are you looking at me for? Look at the screen. And of itself. A terrible injustice in and of itself. Thank you for taking the time to read this." So just to sum that up and, take out his fancy jargon, the fancy words he used, the bunch of malarkey, he basically said, hey, I know this guy's getting sentenced and he's been found guilty of 2 counts of rape, but I don't think he's a danger. I don't think he's that bad of a guy. I think he should let him off the hook. I know he raped 2 people, but... what's the big deal? And then as for Mila Kunis's character letter, I'm just going to say shut up Meg because there's nothing really important. It's pretty much the same exact thing. They're both just absolutely glazing Danny Masterson, saying how good of a person he is, how he never did drugs, and he influenced them to also never do drugs. And I gotta say, while it may seem like he's an amazing person, there's also stories like this about serial killers who chopped up people and ate them and put them in their freezer. On the surface level, from the outside to everybody else, they can seem like an awesome person, a normal, cool, functioning member of society, but behind the mask, they can be an absolutely terrible person. And Danny Masterson is a terrible person. He could have been a good person to you, but that doesn't mean that he's a good person behind closed doors. Any whoosies, that's pretty much it for the background. Now we get to the fun part. The terrible apology video, which is what made me want to make this video. When I watched the apology video, I had no idea about the situation. I didn't know what was going on. I was as lost as a 4-year-old in Walmart when he couldn't find his mom. But after watching the apology video, I knew I had to figure out what was going on, get the whole background, and talk about it, because dear God, it's not just the worst celebrity apology video, it might be the worst apology video I've ever seen.
We are aware of the pain that has been caused by the character letters that we wrote on behalf of Danny Masterson.
We support victims. We have done this historically through our work and will continue to do so in the future.
Shut up, Meg. I couldn't. I had to slip it in there at least once, but they do say that they support victims historically throughout their work. I don't know what they're talking about. They didn't cite their sources, so I'm not going to look it up. But just from this situation itself, we can look at it on the surface level and see that you don't really support them. Because why would you write character letters, even if you do think Danny is an amazing person, why would you write character letters trying to make him look like the good guy when he just raped 2 people? But you support victims.
A couple months ago, Danny's family reached out to us and they asked us to write character letters to represent the person that we knew for 25 years so that the judge could take that into full consideration relative to the sentencing.
The letters were not written to question the legitimacy of the judicial system or the validity of the jury's ruling.
I think it's so funny how celebrities are just incapable of making their own apologies. Like, they so clearly don't feel they don't mean anything that they're saying, to the point where they're so obviously reading off of a script. I would not be surprised if they had a whole camera crew behind this camera with like a boom arm for the mic, holding the microphone over, someone with a camera on their shoulder, have a producer, a director sitting in a chair, and then a dude holding up those comically large cards, just flipping through them. It's like, all right, Ashton, you say this. Mila, you say this. Make it look like you're sorry. I would actually believe a dude that said he just saw a dog riding a unicycle down the highway than what they're saying, the words that are coming out of their mouth right now.
They were intended for the judge to read, and not to undermine the testimony of the victims or re-traumatize them in any way. We would never want to do that.
So they were intended for the judge to read, but not to undermine or change anything about the sentencing itself. So why write the character letters? If you're sending them to the person who is going to make the decision, the judge, why not just, if you support victims, the best thing to do would have been to not send the character letters and then speak out publicly about your support to the victims and say that Danny is a terrible person for raping people, because he is. Not writing this whole thing trying to get sympathy, trying to get pity points for some dude who's being convicted for raping 2 people.
And we're sorry if that has taken place.
Our heart goes out to every single person who's ever been a victim of sexual assault, sexual abuse, or rape.
And they even left in the turning off the camera. That irks me so bad. That it's homemade. It's a homemade video. It's from the heart. But we are reading off of a script. And this definitely was probably written by our PR team and not by us whatsoever, because we just don't feel anything that we're saying. It's like that episode of The Office where Dwight says, "I state my regret." And then Jim says, "Did you have to read it off of a card?" And he says, "Yes, because I do not feel it." That's basically what they're doing. There's just no way that this is the most insincere apology I've ever seen since I was apologizing for smacking my brother in the face. I didn't actually feel sorry, but it's the way that I don't get spanked, so I'm gonna say I'm sorry. This apology is just more phony than baloney. And aside from their apology just being so stale, feeling so forced, I just don't understand. It's like, it sounds to me that if these character letters were never released, they would have never apologized, which obviously nobody ever apologizes online unless they get caught doing something bad. If they didn't get caught, they wouldn't feel sorry and they wouldn't feel the need to apologize. It's all about saving face, saving their public image. And that's what they're doing right here. They don't feel sorry. They actually probably still support the rapist. I'm not even going to call him his name. He's the rapist because he's a convicted rapist. They would probably write another cover letter. They're trying to make it seem like, oh, his family asked us to write cover letters about the person we knew for 25 years while we worked alongside him. Sure, the person you knew, you might have never seen him do anything bad, but he still did do those terrible things. And that doesn't lessen it by him being a good person when he was around you. Because believe it or not, humans are capable of deception. They can deceive you. They could give money to a homeless person in front of you, and then when you turn your back, beat up that homeless person and steal all of their belongings. Like, you know, just what you see isn't what you get. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that you don't know about. A lot in people's personal lives that you'll never know about. And that is their true self. And Danny's true self is that he's a rapist. He doubled up on the rape. So it's not just like you can't just say, oh, he raped one person, even if that was an argument. He still did it. He raped 2 people. 2. And then you made this horrible apology, and now you're getting clowned on the internet. Hip hip hooray. Another bad apology to add to the infinite list of bad apology videos. Man, I can't even think of all the bad ones. There's, of course, the infamous Logan Paul apology. There's Lily Sings. Her was a more recent apology with the ukulele singing the song about her apology. And now there's this one with Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis. There's a lot of good apologies. A lot of good bad apologies. I might have to make a bad apology tier list at some point. That might be a swell idea. But other than that, that's this whole situation. I just wanted to make fun of some stupid celebrities. I'll catch you in the next one.